Yeah, I mean, there's some discrepancy in this, and you know, honestly, Chip has done this before, where he says things in the past. I mean, listen, he's still telling you that Howie Roseman's a guy he worked really well with and has no problems with, and those aren't believable statements. And I think Chip is not making credible statements now. I do believe, and Evan admits, that he did ask to be released if they weren't going to redo his deal back in March, because it would make sense back then. That's before the draft, before free agency starts. Teams have time to work someone like Evan Mathis into their budget if they want him and pay him the money he's looking for. Now, there are still teams with money left over, but it's, you know, most teams have moved on and decided where they're going to go. It's much tougher for Evan to go and find that team and get that contract he wants. So Evan says he hadn't asked, or nor anyone in his camp has asked for release since March, whereas Chip is kind of making it seem like these were repeated requests. Please release me. Please release me. So I have to go on Evan's side here. I believe that Evan's telling the truth on that one.
Yeah, and he also kind of indicated that he was going to be at minicamp, and he kind of, it looks like, told you guys over at CSN Philly that he would have been there, he would have honored the contract, and he would not have been a distraction. I wish Kelly would have given him the opportunity to prove that, but it sounds like Kelly has this, hey, if you don't like it, then you're out of here mentality, and I don't know that that's a very good work environment.
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like Chip's got an itchy trigger finger, that any sign of counterculture is pretty much going to land you on the hot seat and out of here. But the strange thing is, and maybe this is normal, but the players who are here now, they really seem to back Chip. This is different than the way it used to be 5 to 7 years ago, even before. I mean, if you remember the Joe Banner, Andy Reid era, you weren't a good Eagle if you didn't have a contract dispute. And when you did, your teammates either did not side with anybody publicly to the media, or they sided with the player and said, you know, a guy's got to take care of his family, a guy's got to do what he's got to do. We're only in this league for so long. To hear all the people now, the players now, kind of talking about culture over talent, and culture is important here, and if you're not with us, you're against us. It's such a different voice. It's such a different tone than you would have heard 5 or 7 years ago that it's strange to me. And I asked Zach Ertz about it, because he's been one guy who's said that. And I said, what do you feel about the idea that from the outside people think you are Chip's robots? That it's almost like Manchurian Candidate here, or Stepford Wives, and you're all walking in line the same way. And how that might be perceived as sellouts by the rest of the NFL and the Players Association. And he said, you know what, other people wouldn't understand what we have going on here is a good thing, and I don't expect everybody else to understand it, but we really believe that this is the way to go.
Yeah,
very strange, Mike. It's very odd. It's so different.
It is, and you were on Friday's show, I believe, when this all happened, and you said, look, Mathis said he was going to be there. Now, we don't know if he had a plane ticket. Well, he sent out a screenshot of his itinerary, one-way flights from Southwest Airlines 666 from Phoenix to Philadelphia. So he was going to be here. From your dealings with Evan Mathis, do you believe that he would have been a problem if he had to play under a contract that he was not happy with?
I think it would have put him in a bad situation, because if he had an injury, or if he at his age had a drop off in production at all, then it would have been perceived as you're doing this on purpose. You're not happy. Anytime if you give up just 1 or 2 sacks, it would have looked like that. Everything would have been open to question. So I do think he would have showed up, and I think he's credible because he had the same contract demand 2 off seasons ago, and then last year he still showed up. He still played. He came back from that knee injury. He made the Pro Bowl. He knows that now it's going to be difficult to find that same contract that's going to pay him even what he was making, but never mind what he was looking for. So I do believe you just showed up, because if you miss this stuff, you miss your money. And if you want more money, then you're obviously not going to try to go ahead and lose it. So I think he has some credibility to that standpoint. I do think he would have come here and tried his hardest, because it makes no sense not to, but it would have been a bad situation, because any type of drop-off or any type of adversity on his part, and the whole world around here is going to assume that he's tanking it on purpose, and that's a bad situation.
Yeah, the question, I guess, with the new regime here, Kelly has basically kind of put the kibosh on anybody who says, look, I've outperformed my contract. Is that a good way to run your business, your franchise, to say, look, you better not ask about anything, otherwise you're gone?
Well, you would think it sets a precedent for either what you mentioned, like just a bad precedent for guys not getting what they deserve, or guys who want more money kind of saying, release me so I can go get more money, But you can also see that would be to ignore what Chip Kelly has done for other guys. I mean, I'll take Connor Barwin and D'Amico Ryans as examples. Connor Barwin didn't approach the team as far as I know, but he got his incentives guaranteed coming off a Pro Bowl a year because they felt that he is a guy who has done everything that's asked and bought into the system. So he got a bump in his pay raise. D'Amico Ryans is a guy that maybe Chip Kelly is probably the only person in the world that would have given him more money coming off a second Achilles tear and being at his age. I mean, no, I don't think people would have been that upset if they cut him and moved on given the circumstances, and instead they extended him and gave him more guaranteed money. And D'Amico Ryans is a total buy-in guy, so I'm going to say this about Chip Kelly. Like, he may not be credible with what he says about the Evan Mathis situation, but he is very consistent about what he is looking for and what those guys who give him what he's looking for will get as a reward.
Geoff Mosher, CSNPhilly.com, Eagles insider. Jeff, is there any evidence here in your mind to suggest that this release of Mathis was not about money or culture or any of those things, or is this just a clear that he wanted more money, Kelly wasn't buying it, you're out?
All right. So in my the homework on this story, I have gotten a sentiment, not necessarily from Evan, just from people, that there might be something more to it than meets the eye. But I can honestly tell you, I don't know what that is. I do think it's telltale that teammates haven't necessarily stood up for Evan, and maybe that's it. Maybe he was not popular among his teammates, and maybe Chip sensed that, and that he felt that going in this direction would be okay because it wasn't going to rub the locker room wrong, even more so than releasing Deshaun and trading LeSean, that this one would have unilateral support. But if you're asking me if Evan Mathis had never asked for more money and had never approached the team and had showed up at everything, would he still be on the team? I tend to think he would still be on the team.
Yeah, this is all kind of bizarre to me because it seems like, and you're saying, some of the things that Kelly said today, basically Mathis, which you don't hear a lot of this all the time, a player just coming on out and saying, well, then why didn't they draft a guy? Why didn't they sign a guy if they thought they were going to release me ahead of time? Or, hey, I was going to show up, and Kelly saying, well, we asked him to play under his terms, and that was something we asked him repeatedly, and he wouldn't do. Well, it's almost like because Mathis just said, hey, look, Coach, he said, I talked to Kelly, and Kelly said, I don't make those decisions. I mean, it sounds like Kelly really sounds kind of, I said, you're almost going back to the Andy Reid days here, where you like so-and-so the coach, you don't like the GM. This is where it gets into a sticky situation, because I think Kelly looks pretty bad right now.
I do. I think he looks disingenuous, honestly. And this is not the first time. And listen, I have come on your show and talked to you about things he has said in the past that were not credible or disingenuous, starting with some of the things that happened this offseason and Howie Roseman. And every time I do, I get emails and tweets from the, hashtag in Chip We Trust crowd saying, well, this is why he never speaks to you guys, because all you do is call him a liar, or all you do is discredit what he says. Listen, it's our jobs to decipher what he says and make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and it's his responsibility as the franchise leading figure to speak about moves that impact the franchise and that they're interested in. But, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Every single coach I've ever dealt with has lied or distorted the truth. So Chip Kelly is no different than any other guys, but this is a perfect example of where he is massaging the truth or saying things like, we wish Evan the best, I hope he gets what he wants, when we know that that's really not the situation.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a clear case of, you either buy in or you don't, and if you don't, you're not here. I mean, don't question, don't ask. We'll come to you, and if we don't come to you, keep your mouth shut and do what I tell you. It's turning into very much a almost cult-like atmosphere down there.
Yeah, it is. It's got that feel. And, if it all works out and they win a Super Bowl, no one will say anything. If it tanks in their face, people will rewrite history and say this was this was too much of a dictatorship, and that was the downfall of Chip Kelly.
Geoff Mosher, CSN Philly, has more on this over at CSN Philly. Of course, at Geoff Mosher, CSN on Twitter, as Evan Mathis and Chip Kelly. A lot of he said, she said. We'll discuss more. Thanks, Jeff.
You got it.